Yes, awesome. So, guys, we started off by sending most of you, or all of you who registered, a questionnaire. And about 200 of you responded to that questionnaire. And only two Farais managed to get 100%. That was a Farai Muvuro and a Farai Schmidt. But most of you guys failed that test. And I wasn't surprised because I also failed the test at some point. There were many things that I didn't know that needed to happen for me to be able to build a viable business enterprise. So when we developed this questionnaire, it was at a time when I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong in the enterprise, and my lifestyle or my dreams for my lifestyle were no longer able to be matched by the business that I was investing so much into daily, and I couldn't exactly see where was I losing the money. And when I started to interrogate and creating that kind of checklist, I am OCD like that, by the way, creating that checklist helped me to start to figure out and ask the questions that are very important in building the kind of successful enterprise that I wanted, right? And I hope that for you as well, through this webinar and other opportunities like the Let's Farm Together course or other courses that you may take online, you'll be able to start answering the right questions for yourself and use that checklist as a way of measuring where you are right now and where you want to go, and start creating that ladder of saying, these are the steps that I'm going to take until I reach that successful level of the enterprise that I want. And I believe that it is possible. I found myself being able to turn from the red to the green after implementing some of the things that I had learned from that checklist and knowing where to find the information that was necessary. And I know this because I failed so many times before that. And the reason why I'm even here and having this webinar with you is that it is those failures that have made me have the confidence to say, I want to share. And because my life's mission and my personal ambition is that I want to be part of the movement and the people that influence the social and financial implications of every African farmer on the continent, in as far as the conversation of food security goes, and how we build businesses that attract investment and government structures that support our smallholder farmers and support even commercial farmers alike. And I think that over the last 100 years or so, even transitioning from African government, from colonial governments into African governments, is that the farmer that has been in the center of the conversation is the commercial farmer, because they had structures created for them. And so to bring all of the necessary stakeholders into play, I believe so much that we need to structure ourselves as farmers and get ourselves ready to then bring these other stakeholders into the conversation. And we cannot continue to have the difficult conversation that the whole world is talking about food security, but in the same line is talking about how agribusinesses in smallholder farmers are risky businesses to invest in. So we are going to create businesses that are viable for investment, and we do that by learning. And so if you want to do that, please do check out the course and subscribe to it when we are ready for the cohort in January. For now, you can book into it and just stay clear of the announcements that are going to come. So as I had promised in the ad that we had flighted before, is that I wanted to speak to 5 things to do before starting an enterprise, because I noticed that if I used the whole 40 question checklist, I would have a hard time trying to do everything within the 1 hour. So I picked out just 5. They are critical in making sure that your budget, making sure that your enterprise is well built, and at the same time a good starting point to look at how far you want to go and where you are and how to start building from there. So let's get straight into it. Number 1 is that I believe we should invest in learning from other farmers. And thank God for technology like this. You can actually learn from other farmers online if you are not anywhere close by. But I do believe that experience is the best teacher. Going in and visiting farms and going and asking people who are experienced in these farming enterprises, or people that you look up to as farmers, ask them the right questions so that they can help you frame the thought process into building your own enterprise. Know what you're looking out for. So, funny story, right? I need to actually be able to tell people how I actually got into farming. We started building a business that is called Fresh in a Box Zimbabwe. And Fresh in a Box is simply an aggregator of smallholder farmers and their produce, and we sell it online on an e-commerce platform to customers anywhere in the world that have loved ones in Zimbabwe, and we deliver in Zimbabwe, as well as deliver to other businesses such as OK and Pick and Pay. They're some of our businesses that we actually do supply. And because of that, we started to realize just within our own small space, we're still packing in our garage, in our old home. And we realized that, okay, so farmers do have produce, but farmers are also influenced by things that they see online. And at one point, we have a standard box that has 13 to 15 different types of horticultural produce. And an article just came out of a guy that bought a beautiful double cab from having a huge field of cabbages. That guy made sure that in the next 90 days from the time that was published, there was a flood of cabbages. And we already knew that we now need to make sure that we never find ourselves in a situation where we are flooded with one product and we are unable to create our standard box produce, right? And so I started to think, I'm a mathematics graduate, and I said to myself, how do I create a logical funnel for me to have farmers that grow specifically for our box, as well as grow for other customers that they find in their own market? And trying to do that was a more challenging aspect because I really needed to understand the farmer's lifestyle. And as fate would have it, one of our mentors calls us and says, listen, guys, I've been watching you for the last 9 months doing this Fresh in a Box thing. I think it's great. I have this property. I worked on it about 5 years ago, and then I stopped because I'm focusing on other ventures and I don't have time to have that as part of my business ventures. But I think this will gel with your business. What do you guys think? And do you want to go check out the farm? We're like, most definitely. At this point, I already want to live on a farm when I retire. And I was like, why not do it whilst I'm still building my career? And that's what we did. So we take a drive. Fortunately, what is the Fresh Farm now is literally about 30 minutes away from the CBD, right? It's one of these horticultural hubs where the plot is. We get there. It has the most beautiful scenery, guys. The fresh air there is unbelievable. I was sold. The farmhouse was so beautiful. I'm like, yes, my dream is coming to life and I don't need to be retired for it to happen. It's going to happen now. And I was like, you know what, babes? We're actually moving to this place, come what may. And if need be, we're going to grow our own vegetables so that we can also sell them in our box, right? And quickly, I then realized later down the line that you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. And that's one of the lessons that I hope that we all pick up as farmers, that we'll need to build communities around each other. But more on that later in the talk. Now we're at the farm, we walk around the farm, we see there are farm workers that already live there. As part of our mentors' conditions to be on the property is that I would love for you guys, whilst you're listing the property, to keep these 3 main guys for me because they've been loyal to me and I'd like for them to be there. And we agreed to that because we thought better to have somebody who actually has knowledge of the farm. And therefore, we then went there. They were doing their little farming project and we thought, this is pretty. They've got cabbages, they've got tomatoes over there. And it made sense at a subsistence level and not at a business level. Fast forward, we get back to Fresh in a Box. We announce to the team, guys, we finally have a farm and it's going to be called the Fresh Farm. And we take the team for the second time to go there. The team is psyched. They're also enjoying the site. They're enjoying the fresh air. And they're like, yes, this is the place. So we are all in agreement, as all stakeholders would have it, that we're going to move to the farm. The farm was perfectly located for our customers at the time, perfectly located for our operations, and say we're going to build from here. And it has been a blessing to have the Fresh Farm. What we didn't anticipate is what questions should we have asked before we got there? So it's easy for you to just see drip lines and structures that are there. We didn't even ask, how long have you guys have had these greenhouses? Because we need to prepare for when we're going to resheet the greenhouses. I'm sure if you've watched any of my videos with Wodemaya, you'd see the high landscape shot of the videos showing most of my greenhouses now don't have plastics, right? That's because I didn't plan for it and I didn't ask the critical questions during the time I should have been preparing for this enterprise, right? So asking the correct questions will definitely shorten the learning curve for any farmer, right? And it is important for us to do that. And lastly, don't ever count your chickens before they hatch, right? And why am I saying this? Is because our mentor didn't just offer us farmland and said, go and farm, right? He sat us down and said, let me talk to you about the farming thing. He gave us the real talk that it's not easy. You will need to put in your work and be hardworking. And we're like, we're hard workers. We're going to do this. And he pulls out this spreadsheet that has the enterprise budgets and also his actuals. And he told us that, you know what? I was making $30,000 in profit per month on this property. I was like, wow, we are about to be rich. I looked at my husband and said, we are moving to the farm tomorrow because we need to start making sure that we have that $30,000. But there are two things that we didn't put into context. Number one, at the time my mentor was in that enterprise, it was in 2012, and the US dollar in Zimbabwe was the main currency and it was pretty stable. The time we're having this conversation about moving to the fresh farm is now 2019. The US dollar is no longer the main currency, number one. Two, we now have the RTGS that then converts to being the Zimbabwean dollar and it starts tanking in value. So meeting that kind of $30,000 profit became very difficult. That was the first thing. The second thing, we didn't put into context that our mentor had actually invested money over time. At least from what I can see from the farm, about $500,000 into that enterprise for it to be able to churn out a 30,000 net profit a month type of enterprise. And we needed to see how do we as Fresh in a Box, as Noma and Kuda, do we have the resources that it takes to invest in that kind of enterprise to churn out a $30,000 a month profit? And we didn't know that and we didn't realize it until later when we started seeing that, oh my God, we're losing out money and our quality of life is no longer the same, but we're living on a farm. How do we make those two match? And that was the most important thing. So the second thing that went into it is that you need to know how to design your farm. Design it from an idea stage. Whether you're at a stage where you just bought farmland, or you are at a stage where you want to buy land, or you're at a stage where you feel you are ready to lease land from somebody else. Design the land itself physically on paper and design the farming enterprise on paper. Go through the steps of what needs to be done. So steps such as, what exactly do I want to do on a farming enterprise? Do I want to do animal husbandry? Do I want to do horticultural production? Do I want to do grain production? Or do I want to do mixed farming, animals and horticulture or grain production? All of those are possible enterprises. Just be sure that you are very clear about what you want to do at the time of design stage. And when you do that, put yourself in a space where you do the necessary research, the necessary reading, and contextualize, because unfortunately, we are at a stage as Africans where we are still building that kind of information that is contextualized to Africa. So even if you do a simple Google search, you'll find out that it's Europe, it's America, it's Australia. They have that kind of documentation for their own context. And you will need to be able to learn how to contextualize that, which is something that we delve deep into in the Let's Farm Together course. And if you want to be able to do that, I strongly advise you to subscribe for the course that we're going to be flighting in January. So on your farmland, draw the specific buildings that are there. Make an assessment. What are the structures that I already have? Do I have boreholes? How do I make sure that I am drought proof and I am flood proof? How do I design that I make sure that I don't erode my soil during times when there's heavy rains and I don't lose out my crops when there's times of hail? What is the wind direction that's there? And the beauty of it is that we now have technology like Google Earth and Google Maps that allows you to be able to tell some of these things, because The satellites have been collecting this information over time. So you can determine the history of that land on your laptop, pretty much, right? Could I please queue up for the farm map? Yes. So as you can see on your screen, that's the farm map of the fresh farm. On it was the Google Earth picture of the farm, and then I embedded on top of it my own drawing on paper, and then I put it on the computer. That helped me design, what do my blocks look like? What do I call those blocks? And what are the sizes of the beds that exist there? And then I can decide, what am I growing there? And you will see as we continue to discuss, I'll walk you guys through a tomato project on how then you utilize things like your farm design to develop production schedules. Your production schedules will help you develop your work routines and streamline unnecessary work during the time. So if you streamline unnecessary work, it means that you're increasing efficiency within your business. And it will help you also to understand what are the things that I need to do to close the gap between my budget projections and my actuals, by either reducing your cost structure or increasing your sales, and therefore getting the best of your bottom line at any given time. So, sorry, could I please queue up my conversation with one of my sisters? So one of my sisters recently bought farmland in Zambia, right? And we have been talking about, okay, what do you feel like doing on that? What's your enterprise mindset? And I've asked the questions that I pretty much have on the questionnaire, and I sent them to her. And in that process, I then asked her and I said, have you decided what to do with the farmland? She says, yes, I want to do goat farming and a bit of seasonal vegetables to produce. I'm like, great, that works with your location. She has a great market across the border and in Zambia, so it's going to be amazing for her in that manner. But then we started asking questions like, what can you grow there? And so she sends me, as you can see in the screen, she sends me and asks me, I'm told it's clay soil, because she's in the diaspora and she bought land back home. And says, I'm told it's clay soil. What can I grow? And I respond and say, potatoes. But immediately I then say, the most critical thing for you to do is to do a soil test, because we are able to get results that tell us, number one, what your soil can do for you, what you can do for your land and your soil to produce or to manipulate it to be healthy enough to produce whatever you like for it to produce. And I emphasized on that the soil test must happen. Days later, I then ask her again, did you find somebody to assist you with the crop plan? And she says, with the soil test. And then she says to me, no, I haven't managed, but then I think we're just going to use the climate and the trees around to determine what can be grown. And I literally was like, please don't do that. It is important that during your design time, you look at the soil structures that you have and please take them to the lab and get tested. It will be the easiest $15 to $50 roundabout that you have invested, because you are about to lose more money if you just throw in a crop on the land. You know what this is like? It's like, think about this. How confident would you be if you're going for a yearly check and you get to your doctor and your doctor is in a surgery that is looking haphazard? It doesn't have the correct instruments to help do your cross-check for you, and your doctor says to you, oh no, don't worry, we'll use my other patients that we've examined before for you to tell you how well you are doing health-wise. Do you live there feeling like you can thrive with the results that you've been given? Absolutely not. It's not possible, right? And it's the same thing with your land. You are the doctor. Your farmland is the hospital, and your crops are your patients. If you want your patients to thrive and flourish for you, you need to be able to make the conditions of the hospital look top notch. You need to make sure that you as a doctor are well versed in the kind of tests that you want to give your patients, and the recommendations that you give them are specific to their needs. As different as they are, as people as different as we are, also plants are very different. So that is the case with the design story for me. I think that go into design read, research, contextualize, and think about the whole customer journey. We talk about that in the course of from plant or from seed all the way to market. What exists and what are the necessary documents that need to be aligned in there? What are the necessary systems that you need to build? Because you either fall or win on your systems and not necessarily your goals. So it is important to instill those systems from design stage and then implement them. The third thing is that it is important for you to create a business plan that speaks to, number one, your personal ambition, and number two, your business ambition. My personal ambition is to live a less hectic life, influencing the conversation around food security in Africa, and mostly in Zimbabwe, because I love my home country, right? And in Zimbabwe, we were once called the breadbasket of Africa, and I still think that it is possible because we have the most dams per capita. We have the most richest soils to grow anything that we like. And we have seen with the other farmers that I interact with that there is scope and space for us to be those kind of farmers. The only difference that we have right now is that it's no longer only commercial farmers at play. The stewardship of the land in Zimbabwe right now, 65% of those people is under smallholder farmers. And if we learn how to work together and work the land, make successful agribusinesses, we'll be able to get back to that status. That's what drives my personal ambition. But how is my business ambition? Is that I want to be able to first show that I also understand what it takes to be a farmer. Not only that, I want to be able to teach other farmers who are also going to be able to teach other people, so that we create a broader network that makes us be more organized to build that. And how do I do that is through things like building a fresh in a box, building a fresh farm, and now building the Let's Farm Academy. Right? It is important for the Fresh Academy to exist because that is the same place that people can find the knowledge and the resources for them to be able to build the kind of businesses. So that's my example of a business ambition. It is important for you to also break that down. And in the course, we go through with the questions and templates that I use for you to be able to just break that down and be able to understand. And the second thing under this is that key reports, your administration is essential to layering your farming enterprise. One, we said design your farming enterprise and know your farming enterprise. Two, have an administrative layer. Having that layered on each other gives you a more 360 view of your business, and you are able to literally find the pain points that you'll be facing should you be having any pain points very quickly. You're able to hold people that you choose to work for you and hold them accountable for the work that you have designed for them to do. And I've seen that because from the time that we started farming to the time that we're farming now, I've had some of my farm workers saying, it's now much more enjoyable to work here because I know what I have to do. I know the time frame that I have to complete it in. And if I complete it in an even shorter time, I have time to myself and time to rest and time to recuperate or even enjoy the fruits of my labor, and that is something that is very important for you as an individual building an enterprise to do. Think about your bottom line, profit-wise. Think about your bottom line, people impact. Think about your bottom line, how you impact the environment and how you steward the land that you have been given, right? Those three things are very fundamental. So what are the key metrics that should come out and what are the reports I believe work very well to bring out these key metrics? So your budgets, your profit and loss, your your cash flow statements, and your balance sheet. I know this sounds more accounting, but in the course we discuss exactly how these specific reports work in farming and how they look for a farming enterprise. And what are those metrics that come out of those key reports? Things like your profit margins, your production volume, your quality and quantity of the produce that you have versus your post-harvest loss, and how you then bridge the gap between that every time to shrink it as much as possible by specific processes and systems that you carry out on the farm. And lastly, your average selling price for whatever product that you produce. We are so unfortunate in Africa that over the last years, we have a market. In Zimbabwe, it's called Mbare Market. I know in Zambia, I've been to Soweto Market. In South Africa, there is something called the Joburg market, and I've been also to the Pretoria market, right? And those markets tend to determine the price for farmers. And that's why farmers never get a good handle on their business. So it is important for you to be able to determine your average selling price. And whoever you go to discuss that business as a business person, when you tell them that my price is this. So let me give you an example. My price for cabbage in June, in May, in January, and in December is 33 cents US cents. I don't deviate from that price. And do you know why I don't deviate from that price? Is because I've spoken to the people that are my off-takers, and I say to them, at the time that you off-take this product, sometimes the market is going to have the cabbage at $1. You can get it to me at a cheaper price. And at some point, it's going to give you a price that is less than 33 cents. And you're going to want to have because the market is flooded. But I am a consistent in your budgets. I am a consistent in your planning. I am a consistent to your customers who have great quality and quantity all the time, so you can also plan. And your planning means that you will succeed. Business people understand other business people that level up with them at that point. So it is important for you to always know the average selling price for your product and be very much sure for it. You will always find somebody that is willing to buy great produce, great quantities, and also at a great price, and never deviate from it because it allows you to be able to plan. The beauty of it is that in some seasons, you won't be getting as much as the market is saying that you can get. And in some seasons where there's plenty, you're able to take the down hit of what? You're able to take the down hit that the market is producing because you know exactly where your average selling price line is. So lastly, in the space of making a business plan, because I want us to go through an example of a greenhouse tomatoes and how your data that you produce in your farm is very important, is that farming numbers are part of your DNA. And they should be part of your business's DNA as well. Creating frameworks to make decisions such as knowing, is it profitability? Is it an issue of resources? Is it an issue of information? And where do I find that information? Is it an issue of marketing? Is it an information of enthusiasm in myself? Am I ready to take on this kind of project? Is very, very important in your decision-making framework. And I would like for you to be able to just always remember that in asking yourselves when you make these decisions. So may you please kindly queue up for us to look at an enterprise budget. I want us to look at this enterprise budget that I've created just to show you the amount of work that goes into creating the enterprise budget and why it's important for you to know the minutia of stuff and also to know the important elements of creating those kind of systems, right? So as you can see, the first one is going to be your greenhouse tomatoes on a 300 square meter greenhouse. Why I have chosen this is because number one, it's a controlled environment and we're able to have many factors into it. This budget that you see right now, doesn't it look great, guys? Please tell me. I want to see your comments. What do you think? You should all become tomato farmers, right? Because can you see that net profit? $7,000. It makes sense, right? But before I tell you where it's problematic to just see a budget like this and engage in an enterprise before knowing how to build it, let's look at what it takes to build and get to this point, right? The next one. Get a greenhouse and a 300 square meter greenhouse in Zimbabwe using people like Total Farming Solutions. They're a trusted brand. We've worked with them. They've got really great stuff. It will cost you very much little under $5,000 to get that kind of greenhouse set up on your land, right? So that is the price. And you now need to know, what am I producing in there? And for every time, what is the contribution of that crop going in to giving me back money for putting up that greenhouse so that you're able to maintain it, you're able to service it, and you're able to replenish things like your sheeting after 5 to 7 years, right? So in this specific thing that you're seeing, I used 5 years as the worst case scenario that I need to re-sheet my greenhouse after 5 years. And that means that a cost per year is $957 and roughly amounting to about $80. This is pretty much your depreciation account if you are an accountant or if you are a finance person. So how much are you putting towards making sure that you are good in that direction? Whether you're going to take that $80 and put it into insurance of your greenhouses, that is another way for you to be able to then claim that money back when you now need to resheet your greenhouses. But let's look at the production details as the next thing. The greenhouse size, the length of the beds, talk about the number of beds that exist in that greenhouse, the number of drip stations that you're going to have, and the number of plants. I highlighted the number of plants to be 1,000 plants in that kind of a greenhouse. That is the standardized number that you can have in there. And why I start off with 1,000 is because I put a margin of loss of 10% should anything happen, or should some other seedlings not thrive in there, and I always prepare for the worst case scenario, and I peg it at 10%. So if you do that kind of thing and that kind of detail, you're able to move on and say, what are the fertilizers and chemicals that I need, right? List out the chemicals and know how they are sold. So sometimes the chemical or the fertilizer component becomes expensive when you go to the farm shop and they say, no, we only sell in 50 kg bags or in 25 kg bags. You now need to plan and say, I'm about to invest in a 50 kg bag, but I know that it's going to take me this many seasons because I only need, for example, if you look in there, I only need 5 kgs of compound high C as my basal fertilizer at the beginning of planting. But I can buy it at a 50 kg. It's more economic in that way. And you can use it in other plants that you have designed in your farm. But specifically for this project, for this greenhouse, you can then package. How we do it is that I then package 5 kgs of compound C before planting and put it in the storage. And I say, this one is for the tomatoes in greenhouse 1. Right? That's what happens. Your chemicals, the same way. They have their units that they are sold, but then that is not what you exactly need in the greenhouse. So you now need to know what is the contribution of production towards the cost of acquiring my fertilizers and chemicals as per greenhouse. And you'll see that it will all translate to even a per plant cost. The per plant cost comes in at you understanding that each plant will cost me, for instance, here at the fresh farm, each plant will cost me at about 48 to 52 cents to produce. And I expect each plant to yield me about 10 to 15 kgs per plant in the season of 7 months of growing. I know. Now go back to that $7,000 that we started off with the enterprise budget. Can you see now where that $7,000 is? This is $7,000 over a 6 months period. You're not going to gain it all at once and then spend it at once. My mentor always says that turnover is vanity. Cash flow is reality and profit is just sanity. You can realize a profit, but if you don't have the correct cash flow, you are going to put yourself in a bind, right? So if you go back and look at it, it then talks about the variable cost, the fixed cost. Put the cost of the greenhouse in your production, because everything must go down to how much do I want to produce out of the greenhouse for me to recoup that expense of having a greenhouse, because it is actually an expensive type of equipment to have, and also how much profit do I want to make. So we discussed this at length in the course, and we then show how to do it. I also give you templates and budget templates and grow up production schedules, but after we have learned the how-to component of the specific course. Number 4, oh my gosh, sorry, please allow me to just have a sip of water. I think that was also too much for everyone with the too many numbers. Yeah. So number 4 on the 5 key things that we need to do before you have your enterprise is learn how to sell your produce. You can have great production, great administration. If you do not know where to take your produce, it's going to be problematic. And if you can, strike deals. I know there are people here who are from Zambia, from Botswana, from people who are from South Africa on the line, even in Zimbabwe. The big retailers are probably not the most favorable because they give you after 60 days of 60 days holding of your invoice. But in environments where you know that your currency is stable, I say that consistent production leads to consistent harvest, which leads to consistent selling. And consistent selling, you only have to wait 1 60-day period, and after that you have consistent earning. I hope you understood that. Consistency in everything, right? So in your production, learn how to sell your produce. Learn how to strike the deals. If you go and Google how Pick and Pay, ShopRite, other supermarkets have programs of how to onboard suppliers such as you, a smallholder farmer, in terms of meat, in terms of produce. They have got their own standards. During your design stage, know how you're going to engage them and design specifically for that so that you meet a certain standard for them. If you're unable to meet that standard, then you will find that it is difficult to sell your product and then leading you to the general fresh markets that we have in Africa. And I can tell you that if you are not built for that kind of environment, my story of going there the first time, guys, is that I went there with my pretty manicure and they were like, no, mother, come here. We'll give you and make sure that we sell your produce. Please put your cabbages down here. I got my guys to offload cabbages down. And then they said, okay, you need to now take your truck outside because you're going to be charged by council. And when you come back, we'll be able to sell for you the produce. By the time I went round to park the car, enter back the market to where I offloaded my cabbages. 1, I found my cabbages gone. 2, the guys that said were going to sell for me, they were gone. That was a loss. So you need to learn, if you know how to maneuver those markets, great. Do that, but I also advise that send your C grade of your produce there. Send your B grade of your produce. Send your A grade to your sales funnel that actually is a sure thing, right? For us, our sure thing was fresh in a box, right? So we would channel most of our produce through fresh in a box. And I believe that with where we are right now, you can also build your fresh in a box by building communities of farmers around you and service a community that is readily available to you. And as far as our business ambition and where we're taking fresh in a box next, we believe that the smallholder farmers that we have been working with and the more that we want to work with even around Africa, it's time for them to learn how to build hub and spoke models that allow them to aggregate each other and be able to have the design of fresh in a box and leverage on the brand that we have created, the brand capital, the marketing muscle that we have, and be able to push as far and wide, because sometimes we won't be able to be a monopoly over certain things. I actually believe in Voltroning, taking many components and building a monstrous thing. And I believe that if you are part of those farmers and you want to do that, this is an opportunity for you to build. Email us, let's engage on how we help you build and aggregate farmers around your area and build something similar to Fresh in a Box. We have developed the technology that is so adaptable to Africa, and I believe that it is the kind of technology that you would want to have access to and to use for you to shorten again your learning curve when you build your agribusiness and be able to access more and more markets that are available to you. That is the way you actually learn how to sell your produce. So that's how I've told you. Please do engage on that if you want us to be able to assist you. Lastly, it is important for you to train up. What do I mean by train up? We've designed the systems. We've aligned them with our goals. We have made sure that we understand how to sell, but we haven't necessarily figured out who are the people working on the enterprise. What is their role? Be very specific about that. Don't say, I just want to hire a farm supervisor or a farm manager. What is the farm manager doing? What are their KPIs? What are their consistent reports that they have to send to you, whether by email or be on your desk? Mine are on my desk. Before I go to bed, I look at that report and I say where I'm at, where I want to go, how do I reduce the gap? And those reports help me do that. If I don't have the metric to tell me where I'm at now, it becomes very, very difficult. So it is important for you to be able to say, how do I create reports that speak to the metrics that are leading me to my business ambition and ultimately my personal ambition? And use technology and things like Google Drive, your email to maintain and manage operations. You build a operational data room for you to be able to be even an investable business, right? So when you come to a point where you're like, I'm now going to look for money at a bank, banks are now starting to think about, how do we use inflows and outflows of farmers instead of the land that they own or not own, because most of the African governments are the owners of the lands. We are just stewards, in a sense, of that land. How do we make farming bankable? Will strongly depend on your inflows and outflows, and having the correct data for you to produce to a banker to assess if you are investment worthy, right? And make sure that you are investment worthy from design stage to planning stage, to execution stage, to market stage, and engage with your bank consistently. I can't tell you enough that my bank, I always then ask for my bank statement at the end of the month, just so that I can tell the farm manager, are you watching my inflows and outflows through your bank? I have another bank that has offered me working capital outside of Zimbabwe because we are an international company. And it was a great relief for us to get that kind of investment and loan facility, because it accelerated our growth. It gave us a step up to do things like get a greenhouse, invest in a new truck, invest in some other things. So having that kind of data allows you to have conversations, whether it's with financial institutions that are traditional, or even people. We have built Let's Farm Africa, a crowdfunding platform for smallholder farmers. And we want you as a smallholder farmer to come onto that platform and be able to convince micro investors like your relatives to put money into you, because you show that you are worthy of that kind of investment, right? So train yourself up in that department. Understand how to do a pitch deck that speaks to your enterprise. Understand what are the documents that are necessary for your plans. Do some work into creating SOPs for your company. And always treat anybody, no matter how educated and qualified they are, when they come into your enterprise, treat them as ignorant, and then teach them of your ways and your systems. That way they bring in what they know, and their innovation is triggered because they've been given great and fertile ground for them to be able to work like that. My story in this case and my failure is that, remember I told you about the farm manager that I got that was very well educated and knowledgeable. I set up that farm manager to fail, to be very honest, because I had unreasonable expectations. I needed the 30,000K profit that I had heard about and seen in Excel sheets. But I didn't understand the process of farming, and I didn't understand what it took to do that. Him as well, he failed to help me realize how to get to that point. It was always, today, mother, we are going to be planting tomatoes, right? And then he says $300 is needed to plant tomatoes. You buy 5,000 seedlings from that. And then 2 days later, oh, we need fertilizer. Then 5 days later, oh, we have seen that there's a bug in there. We now need to, because it was not well planned. And I also didn't understand the plan. We didn't communicate well, and we didn't train each other of a system. I lost a lot of money. I always joke around and I say, I personally have a master's degree from Harvard with the amount of money that I have lost to my farming enterprise because I wasn't well planned, I wasn't well coordinated, and I didn't understand my systems and build them to suit my needs, right? So it is important for you to do that. Create an operational Bible. Let your staff members use it the way they use the Bible. Learn it by heart and know it. Sing it to yourself so that you know the things that you're supposed to do. It will be very disheartening for even your farm members not to know what kind of tools are necessary for them to be able to implement a certain type of task on the farm and do it efficiently and effectively. You know, so those are the kind of things that you build in the operational Bible, and we speak a lot about that in the course, right? So remember to train everybody and make sure that in that point you are streamlining and making sure that your enterprise is holistically efficient. You are able to then look at your enterprise and say, where are the holes? Where am I losing? Or where are the opportunities? And how can I take advantage of those opportunities, right? So that has been my take on how we build great and successful agribusinesses and agricultural enterprises. And I hope that this has helped from the point of the questionnaire. If you answered the questionnaire, if you didn't, please just take some time and answer the questionnaire for yourself. And you don't have to send the results back to me. It's supposed to answer for you and for you to know, where am I at? And where do I want to go, and how do I build? I'll keep saying this. Know how to close the gap, because that is the entire business, knowing how to close your gaps. I just want to talk about the Let's Farm Together course and what you can expect from the course if you are interested in that. Is that it's a 10-week program. It's weekly. Unfortunately, I can't make it self-paced, but then if you do pay for the for the course, after our 10 weeks together with live webinars in between there, you are going to be able to have a lifetime access of that course, and you can then reteach yourself again and again and check out some other theories. We'll keep updating the course if there are other things that I learned, because I haven't fully gotten there yet. I'm only teaching because I believe that I also learn by being able to teach and to understand my own system and test them thoroughly. If other people bring results that don't actually work, it means that I need to realign. So I hope that you do connect with me in that space of also building me whilst I build you, in that sense of we are going to get results from the process, and those results speak to testing and stretching our systems, going back to the ultimate goal of building African farmers that are investable in the world, which is what I really, really want. So in the course, we're going to talk about know your why and how to prepare your goals and prepare for what you want from your enterprise. We're going to talk about planning for your farm and how to design. What are the design elements? And in the course, we'll talk about who are the people that you can engage that will give you a discount. You'll get discount codes for specific things, whether it's for your machinery with our partners, or it's for work that you need with architects, with some agronomists. All of that kind of stuff is all there in the course, and you get those discounts when you get it through the course. And we're going to discuss deciding how and what your enterprise in, and locking in your niche. And by niche, I'm not saying a specific thing that not everybody is doing. Sometimes it's also doing what other people are doing, but doing it so excellent that you are thriving in that space, right? Planning for markets and profitability, right? Learn how to farm. This will talk about the resources that you need in your journey for you to be able to structure yourself as a farmer and also be able to teach your staff members and your team members. Production planning. This will be a complete guide to your strategy, to implementation and results portal. How do we measure ourselves, as I've been mentioning before in my talk? We're going to delve much deeper into that, and I give you material for you to use, for you to read, for you to practice on. There are quizzes there. So if you quiz yourself and you don't get it right, go back and restart the course again until you get it right. We're going to talk about starting your own seeds, your production plans, crop plans, and how the crop plans feed into your work schedules into your harvesting schedules into how you're logistically moving your products. So all of that is in the course, right? Starting your seedlings, if you want to be in the seedling space or you just want to do it in-house, it's also possible, but we also talk about taking advantage of people who are in the agri value chain, who are doing the seedling production, right? And taking advantage of those people builds the value chain or the industry that we holistically want, right? And I will give you recommendations of the people that I've worked with, the people that are going to offer you discounts in that space. And then the seventh thing will be crop maintenance and workload management. Talk about weeding, fertilization programs, how to be able for you to read your soil test and then know how to amend all the time, and then harvesting and the harvesting techniques. That is probably the most taxing thing on the farm, believe it or not. It's not the farming, it's not the weeding, it's the harvesting. And knowing how to condition your vegetables for them to last longer on the shelf in a supermarket or to last longer in your own fridge, right, is important. And that's all covered in the course. And lastly, the strategy of how to create your farming enterprise data room and why it is important. And from that point, I believe that if you implement anything, I give you 100% guarantee on this course, is that if you implement everything that we've spoken about, and you can show that everything is done correctly and it didn't work out, I will pay you back your money. But not only that, I can guarantee you that you are the next successful agribusiness owner that people have seen. You are the next mentor for other people that will emulate you for wanting to be a farmer like you. You are the next catalyst and the next building block to the type of African businesses that are in the agricultural space that we look forward to, that we want to invest in. So this has been my course and the course overview. In other courses, we're going to talk about animal husbandry. So we will just do an overlay, but with the resources, and if you become a member, is that we'll have I'm Thriving for weekly, but we'll have often webinars such as these ones. They will also include other people that are specifically skilled in other industries like animal husbandry, in production of grains, in production of orchards, if you're into macadamias and so forth, or into blueberries, people who are well versed into the export markets and how to maneuver those markets. I will bring them on, and I will make sure that our discussion is not necessarily surface level, but it goes deep into the things that help us build the businesses that we desire to have. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I am now ready to take some questions. We will read through the chat box. So if you're ready with your questions, I'll scroll through. If you're ready with your questions, I'll answer some that have been thrown in. And as well as if you have some questions, please throw them into the Q&A section and we answer those. I think I have about 15 minutes before we wrap up. Yes, 15 minutes. So if you can, quickly please throw in your questions. I can see Dumisani already. Animal husbandry, is it covered in this course? So in this course, it's going to be lightly covered. There's going to be some reading material. There are guest lecturers in video form and tutorial form that will come in and teach on that. I'm not specifically going to be the one to do it, but yes, it's going to be covered in the course. Ngosizile Pinda says, I'm stuck on the marketing section of the questionnaire and I'm unable to move forward. Okay, we'll try and help you with that, but don't worry about that. You can refresh or retry again. You'll be able to.
He hasn't answered maybe a question.
Or maybe there's a pending question that you missed at the top. Please just go back and recheck that you answered everything, because they are important questions. So if you don't do that, you won't be able to proceed. Watching from Cameroon, hi. Thank you so much for being here. Roughly, how many tomato plants will you have per square meter? So per square meter, it's roughly 3 to 4 plants under greenhouse shading. That's my recommendation, 3 to 4 plants. That's why I had 1,000 plants roughly. It will come down to 900 depending on survival of the fittest of that environment, right? So 3 to 4 plants per square meter is what I really genuinely advise. Take it with how you want to. Okay, sorry, I'm scrolling through and trying to look for, are you open to having farm visits from fellow farmers and would-be farmers? Absolutely, I am at the moment, because I am building more of the business and the enterprise and how I want to match my ambitions. I'm not always at home, but I will structure a way that you can also have access to the farm through our farm managers and supervisors for you guys to come and learn, because we have trained them sufficiently enough to be able to run it even without me being physically present. I will also arrange throughout the year, next year of 2023, days of an open day at the fresh farm, and then we'll be able to work around that. If you are in South Africa, I will strongly advise you to join a group called Demeter. They have monthly, if not once every quarter, meetups of farmers, and they go there and they learn from that space. That would be something that could work if you do consider yourself in that space. I'm also part of that network, so I do go sometimes if I'm in South Africa. And if you don't have that community, please try and find each other. In the chat box, there are people that are saying they are from specific countries. Find each other, know each other, and build that community and start doing those things for each other. That would be very important for you guys to then gain that kind of experience. Okay, do we have companies that you recommend for soil testing? Yes, absolutely, I do. So if you are in Zimbabwe, there is a company called Zim Agro Solutions. They do soil testing. They do my soil testing, so I trust them with that. That would be very important for you to do that. If you're not in Zimbabwe, I know that in South Africa, the government itself has got government institutions that do that. Even in Zimbabwe, actually, under the government, if you go to Kutaga, they do soil testing and soil sampling for you. I've never been a fan of that sampling because it's very basic. They're just going to tell you your soil structure and pH levels of your soil. So try and find soil sampling companies that actually delve into the soil test. They'll tell you your soil structure, your soil pH, the nutrient status of your soil. Those kind of things are very important for you to know in your soil test. And we are going to be offering a service through the network of agronomists that we work with. If you do your soil test, send it to us via WhatsApp. We'll send a link on our website for you to be able to send it to us via WhatsApp, and we will send you back a voice note plus a simple, detailed English breakdown for you to understand what your soil test means, because not all of us went to school and did chemistry and biology. And I think that is important for us to still be able as farmers to understand the documents that come from people who are interconnected with the industry itself. Okay. Okay, what sort of technology? Hydroponics in itself is a technology, right? In terms of what sort of diseases are prone to this type of farming and for different vegetables. So hydroponic, I haven't experienced anything except for if you don't feed correctly the nutrients that are necessary to match up or level up to what the soil usually transmits to the roots, right? If you are just using plain water, you need to have the synthetic nutrients fed into the soil. That then comes up into a more expensive method. But then there's also hydroponics in using growing mediums, right? Also, you go and get your growing medium tested and be very sure what's in there, and then amend and put proper fertilization recommendations for your crops for them to grow. And then diseases and pests are absolutely avoidable, guys. It's not a given that it's going to happen. They're avoidable by, number one, buying reputable seeds and seedlings, right? If you go and buy reputable seeds from a good seed company, that will reduce your risks of diseases and pests, right? They're avoidable by you scouting around your farm. Go every day as part of your farm manager's job, or supervisors who are in different groups, depending on your size, or even you. Go around and scout. Do the scouting method. We talk about that. Do the Z method of scouting. Look under the leaves of your plants. Look at the way that they are showing. What are the features that you're seeing? And the moment you see that, you're able to take action before it becomes a disaster. In tomatoes, for instance, you know that the moment you get hit by tuta, you are in a very bad shape. The moment you get hit by blight and you don't address it immediately, you are in bad shape. You could lose your crop. So it is very important that you do that scouting. Teach yourself how to scout and teach other people in your company how to scout. We have templates of reports of after scouting what to do, because they also inform your next work schedule for the next day or for the next hour if it's an emergency. So those are the kind of things that you need to think about. But in hydroponics, research has shown that there's much reduced risk in terms of pests and diseases and in terms of your yield, but also at the same time, what we've learned is that you can't do most of the vegetables. So you're likely going to be playing in the space of the Solanae family, that is your peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers. Those are the kind of things that thrive very well in hydroponics. Or lettuce, if it's like complete hydroponic water with no growing medium, that would be your lettuces. Those are the ones that we've seen work in hydroponic systems. If you know, and aquaponics, right? You can include fish element into that. And so if you know anything else about hydroponics, please share in the chat so that you can also help me answer Nkosi. I hope I answered you very well, Nkosi. And good seeing you here. I grew up with Nkosi in the same hood, so happy to see you here. Is there anything else?
Hydroponics expert.
Yes, I will talk to what's her name from 360 Hydro Farm. Yeah, so I will talk to, sorry, my bad, I was now talking back to Kuda. I will talk to somebody and we'll invite a hydroponic expert to come in. And if you want their help, we'll be able to share their contacts and their consult. Then they will let you know how much they cost for a consult and helping you set up. I know definitely that Tino from 360 Hydro Farm actually does those consults, and if you can follow her or search her on the internet, you'll find her. And I'll also share her contacts after her approval for me to share her contacts to people that would like. So please utilize our email at hello at thefreshacademy.org. You will be able to then get access to us. And as well, if you want to book me for a more thorough session, please utilize that facility. But thank you very much for your time, for your commitment, and for listening in. I appreciate you for spending time with me and connecting with me. I hope this is a great start for us to build the community of farmers that run successful agribusinesses. Have a wonderful Saturday. Have a wonderful evening if you're everywhere else in the world, or good morning to you, and thank you for waking up early. See you next time, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. me see. There are more questions. Oh, from Shangani. That's
Keep
nice.
going.
No, that's done. It's not questions, just people saying that they're,
Okay.
yeah.
Hi, everyone. Right, well done.
Thank you, love.
Oh gosh, have I stopped the stream?
Okay, let me see if you have.
Okay, stop the stream. Well done, that was very clear. Well done. I hope people heard you properly.
I hope so too. I really hope so too, my love.